This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome to Chapter 1 of our series, Rewiring Your Brain, the Science of Neuroplasticity. In this episode, titled Introduction to Neuroplasticity, we're going to explore what neuroplasticity really means and why it's such a game changer for our understanding of the brain. So, get ready to discover how our minds can adapt and evolve. Let's dive in. Right now, as you listen, your brain is physically changing. Not in childhood, today. A London cab driver, after years of memorizing streets, can end up with a measurably bulked-up navigation center. So here's the puzzle. If experience reshapes the brain, what is this moment shaping in you? That reshaping power isn't reserved for dramatic moments like injury or intense training. It's quietly at work in the background of ordinary life. The habits you repeat, the skills you practice, even the worries you rehearse are all leaving structural fingerprints in your brain. Over time, those patterns can become your default ways of thinking, feeling, and reacting. Here's the twist. Plasticity itself is neutral. It doesn't care whether you're learning a language, doom scrolling, or replaying an argument. It will reinforce whatever you give it most consistently. That makes it both an opportunity and a responsibility. In this episode, we'll unpack where plasticity is strongest in adulthood, how much change is realistically possible, and what kinds of experiences are most brain-shaping, so you can start using this constant remodeling on purpose instead of by accident. One way to see this in action is to look at extremes. London taxi trainees who spend years drilling street layouts don't just feel more confident navigating. Brain scans show their memory hub for space is bulkier than average. Stroke survivors who practice moving a weakened arm while the stronger one is restrained can recruit new motor areas to take over lost functions. On the flip side, when the brain loses input, like an amputated limb, it can recycle that space, sometimes producing vivid phantom sensations. Same capacity, radically different outcomes, depending on what's demanded of it. Plasticity shows up in at least 3 different scales of change, and each one matters for how you actually learn or get stuck. At the fastest scale are moment-to-moment shifts in how strongly neurons talk to each other. Fire 2 cells together in a particular sequence, and the connection between them can become a little easier to activate next time. Neglect that path, and it becomes a bit less responsive. This is happening constantly as you focus, practice, or even get distracted. It's why a single intense study session or an emotionally charged conversation can feel like it sticks more than a dozen half-hearted repetitions. Zoom out a bit and you get structural changes, not just a tweak in signal strength, but small physical edits to the wiring. New branches can sprout, existing ones can retract, and in a few specific regions, entirely new neurons can join the network. These changes unfold over days to months and depend heavily on what you repeatedly ask your brain to do. High-quality sleep, nutrition, movement, and certain medications or brain stimulation tools all influence how readily this layer of remodeling happens. Then there are large-scale shifts in how whole networks cooperate. Regions that frequently activate together become more tightly synchronized, others fall out of step. You can see this when someone learns to read a new script, starts a meditation practice, or spends years in a high-stress job. The default patterns that light up at rest look different from before, reflecting what has become familiar effort and what has become autopilot. Here's where it gets practical. These scales interact. A few seconds of attention bias which connections are strengthened in the next hour. Repeated over weeks, that bias nudges which networks become dominant. Over years, those dominant networks feel like just who I am. One helpful way to picture this is as software updates in a complex app. Quick bug fixes, moment-to-moment tuning, feature tweaks, structural edits, and full version upgrades, network-level shifts. You're not stuck with the version you're running now, but updates only install if you keep using specific features often and consistently enough. Think about skills that feel out of character at first. A lifelong night owl who trains for early morning rowing doesn't just get fitter. Over weeks, hormone rhythms, alertness patterns, and even social habits shift to support dawn practices. That's plasticity showing up in how networks of sleep, motivation, and movement start working together. Or consider a musician who switches from classical piano to jazz. At first, improvising feels chaotic. After months of focused practice, it's the strict score that feels foreign. What changed isn't just speed or accuracy, but which patterns the brain treats as normal. You can see similar shifts when someone learns sign language later in life. Areas once mostly recruited for vision and spatial attention begin to participate in processing linguistic nuance in the hands and face. Long-term meditators show altered activity in systems linked to attention and emotional regulation, echoing their reports of more space between trigger and reaction. These are all examples of the brain updating what it treats as the default playbook based on repeated demands. Your habits may be training your brain for a future you don't actually want. As tools like AI tutors, adaptive games, and brain stimulation move from labs into apps, they'll be able to steer your circuits towards specific skills or moods, much like a smart thermostat quietly reshapes your home's climate over time. That opens doors for early help with depression or dementia, but also raises hard questions. Who decides the ideal settings for your mind, and what happens if that data is sold? So the real question becomes, what patterns do you want tomorrow's brain to find easy? Every playlist, search, and late-night worry is like a tiny slider on a mixing board, nudging certain tracks louder. Your challenge this week: notice one mental playlist you're tired of, and spend 5 quiet minutes daily rehearsing a different one instead. This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. To keep learning with structured courses and more insights, go to owlup.co. Until tomorrow!